What if I told you that one of the most recognized symbols in human history was created as a reminder of mercy, a symbol seen by kings and shepherds, by children and elders, by every generation that has ever lived since the flood, yet most people see it without ever understanding its true meaning, because behind the rainbow lies a promise, a covenant, a declaration that would shape the future of humanity forever. And by the end of this story, you will understand why this chapter is not only about Noah, it is about every person who has ever looked toward the heavens after a storm. The flood was over, the waters had receded, the earth had been given a new beginning. Noah and his family stood upon dry ground in a world unlike any they had known before. Everything familiar had vanished. Entire generations were gone. Civilizations had disappeared. The old world existed only in memory. Before humanity now stood a fresh start, a second chance. And so I blessed Noah and his sons. I commanded them to be fruitful and multiply, to fill the earth once again. The human story was beginning anew. The responsibility once given to Adam was now being entrusted to Noah and his descendants. The future of humanity rested upon this family. Imagine standing where Noah stood, looking across a world cleansed by judgment, knowing that everything ahead would be built from this moment forward. It was a moment filled with both responsibility and hope. I also established new boundaries for life. Humanity would exercise stewardship over creation. The creatures of the earth would now fear mankind, and I gave instructions concerning the sanctity of life itself. Because every human being bears my image, this truth cannot be overstated. People often measure value by wealth, status, achievement, power. But from the beginning, human life possessed value because it reflected something of its creator. Every life matters. Every person carries dignity. Every soul has worth, not because of what they accomplish, but because they bear my image. Then came one of the most important moments in all of Scripture. I established a covenant. Now pause for a moment. A covenant is more than a promise. It is a sacred commitment, a declaration that binds together two parties. And this covenant was unlike any before it. I made it not only with Noah, not only with his children, but with every future generation, with every living creature, with all life upon the earth. Never again would a flood destroy all living things. Never again would the earth be cleansed in the same manner. This promise would endure throughout history. Then I gave a sign, a visible reminder of that covenant. I placed my bow in the clouds, the rainbow. Think about how remarkable this is. The very thing that appears after a storm became a symbol of hope, a reminder that judgment is not the end of the story, a reminder that mercy remains. Every time dark clouds gather and sunlight breaks through them, the rainbow appears. Generation after generation has looked upon it. Many admire its beauty. Few understand its origin. The rainbow is not merely a natural phenomenon. It is a testimony, a witness, a reminder of a promise spoken long ago. Even today, whenever people see a rainbow stretching across the sky, they are looking at a sign connected to one of the greatest covenants in history. Yet Genesis chapter 9 is not only a story of promises, it is also a reminder of human weakness. Even after the flood, even after witnessing extraordinary miracles, humanity remained imperfect. Noah planted a vineyard, the harvest grew, wine was produced, and one day Noah became drunk. As a result, he lay uncovered inside his tent. This moment surprises many readers. After all Noah had endured, after all his faithfulness, after all his obedience, why would Scripture include this event? Because it reveals an important truth. The flood changed the world, but it did not remove human imperfection. Even the most faithful people still require grace. Noah's story reminds us that no human being is flawless. Not Noah, not Abraham, not Moses, not David. Humanity's greatest need has never been a better environment. Humanity's greatest need is transformation of the heart. Then another important lesson unfolds. Ham saw his father's shame and exposed it to others. Rather than covering the weakness, he broadcast it. But Shem and Japheth responded differently. They walked backward into the tent, covered their father, and protected his dignity. This contrast reveals something profound about character. It is easy to expose another person's failure. It is far harder to respond with honor, compassion, and respect. Even today, society often rewards public humiliation, but wisdom seeks restoration rather than disgrace. When Noah awoke and learned what had happened, he spoke prophetic words concerning the future generations of his sons. Blessings were declared, consequences were revealed, and the future paths of nations began to unfold. What appears to be a simple family event would ultimately influence generations yet unborn. Because choices rarely affect only ourselves, they often shape the future of others. The chapter closes with Noah living many more years after the flood, 350 years. He witnessed the growth of future generations. He watched humanity begin again, and eventually, after 950 years of life, Noah died. The man who built the ark, the man who survived the flood, the man who witnessed both judgment and mercy. His life came to an end, but his story did not, because the lessons of Noah continue to echo throughout history. The flood teaches that justice is real. The ark teaches that salvation is available. The rainbow teaches that mercy endures, and Noah's life teaches that faith can preserve hope even in humanity's darkest moments. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of Genesis chapter 9. After every storm comes a promise. After every season of hardship comes hope. After judgment comes mercy. And above all, my faithfulness remains. The rainbow still appears, the seasons still change, the earth still turns, and every one of these things stands as a testimony to a covenant that has never been broken. If this story has deepened your understanding of Scripture, subscribe to Primordial Lore and continue exploring the greatest stories ever told. And now, continue to the next chapter, where humanity begins to spread across the earth, nations emerge, and the foundations of the ancient world are established.